This is one of my special places in my house where I come to read stories and to tell stories. I love telling stories. I was thinking the other day of a favorite story of mine, and it's called The Three Wishes. It contains some values that I think are really important. I wonder if you'll spot them. I'll refer to them at the end of the story. Once upon a time, there were two children. The boy was called Sandeep, and his sister was called Meena. They both lived in a lovely, lovely place with their mum and dad. The dad was a vegetable grower, and the mother, she used to sew clothes. She loved sewing. It was her favorite activity besides being her job. And this little family really loved living on the edge of the little town that they lived in. And all was well. Time passed, and unfortunately, the parents died, which was very sad. By this time, Meena and Sandeep were much older, and they had to get on and look after the house and grow the vegetables and do the sewing. So they decided to make a go of it in memory of their mum and dad, who they loved very much. Unfortunately, Ned, the cart horse that used to draw the lovely trailer to the village, Ned became ill, and he wasn't strong like he used to be. So Sandeep had to think, what am I going to do? I need a horse, or ideally, I'd like a little red van to take the vegetables into the market. But I haven't got enough money. I can't buy that. So we'll have to think about what we can do. His sister, Meena, said, oh dear, she said, you've got worries, but I have too. The sewing machine that Mum had that I now use to make clothes, that's not very good. It's getting very slow and tired, and I need a new sewing machine. What were they going to do? They decided to go for a walk to the local village and just go for a walk to see if they could cheer themselves up. Whilst they were in the village, sort of talking about what they should do to make ends meet, they spotted a little man. He was a most unusual little man. He was walking along the road dressed in really strange clothes. No one in their village was dressed like this little man. Sandeep said, have you noticed, Meena, that little man? She said, yes, and do you see what's happening? He's about to cross the road. He doesn't know his Green Cross code, the way we cross roads. I expect you all remember how to cross roads properly. That's right. Look right, look left, and look right again, and if all's clear, you cross over. But this little man didn't know that. And Sandeep rushed out and just saved him in time before a big lorry would have hurt him. The little man looked up and he said, oh, thank you very much. Where I come from, there aren't these noisy things that hurtle along roads. Thank you for taking care of me. That's all right, said Sandeep. Come to our house and we'll give you some food because you're obviously very shaken up after that experience. Oh, that's very kind of you, said the little man. And they went back to their house. Now, the little man was very particular over his food. And the only thing he seemed to like was the porridge that they had in the house. He said, well, this is more like the food where I come from. Meena said, well, where do you come from? And he pointed up and he said, I come from the planets. Oh, they said, that's strange. We haven't met anybody from a planet before. Ah, I got here by mistake, but I'm magic, so I know how to get back to my planet, and I must be going soon. Oh, can't you stay the night, said Meena. We'd love you to stay and find out more about your planet. No, they'll be worried if I'm away too long, said the little man. But before I go, because you have been so kind to me, I have the power to give 3 wishes. 1 to you, Sandeep, and 1 to you, Meena. You can wish for anything you like. And I'll give you a third wish. And the third wish is for you both. Now, the only thing is that your first and second wish won't come true unless you both guess what the wish is that I've given for both of you. Do you understand? And they nodded. And the little man said, well, thank you again for my food. I've enjoyed the porridge. And thank you for saving me from that big lorry. I must go. And with that, he went. The two children looked at each other and thought, that was strange, but he's given us wishes. Shall we try them? So Sandeep sat very quietly. He crunched up his eyes and he thought of a lovely red van that he'd love to have for going to the market. So he sat and he wished, I wish I had a lovely red van. Now it's your turn, he said to Meena. And Meena screwed up her eyes. And she said, what I'd like is a blue sewing machine like the one in the shop window that I saw in the village. The two children then looked around. They said, well, I can't see a red car and I can't see a sewing machine. And they hunted about. But Ned, the old horse, was still there. And the children thought, oh, this is really sad. But perhaps we have to think of the third wish that we have to make together. Perhaps the two wishes only come true when we discover the third wish. So the children tried to think of a wish. So they wished for a nice meal. They wished for new clothes. They wished for all sorts of things. But still, the red van and the sewing machine didn't arrive. The children became fractious, a bit upset. In fact, they were a bit grumpy with each other. And that night they went to bed, a little disappointed. During the night, Meena woke up and she could hear her brother tossing and turning. And she said, oh, poor Sandeep, I wish he could have his lovely red car to take the groceries to the market. She then went back to sleep. A few minutes later, Sandeep awoke and he heard in the next room his sister gently resting in her bed. He knew that she was fast asleep. And he said, oh dear Meena, she's the nicest, dearest sister. I wish she could have her blue sewing machine. And he went to sleep. The next morning, Meena was first to wake up. She ran downstairs and went to the doorstep to bring in the milk. And when she looked out of the door, guess what she saw? There was a little red car, a car big enough so that it could take the groceries, the vegetables to market. She then rushed inside and she looked into the room where she does sewing. And you know what she saw? Yes, you've guessed. There on the table was the lovely blue sewing machine. They had got their wishes. So they both talked a little later, being very excited. And Sandeep said, but didn't we make two wishes at the end, not one? And Meena said, no, Sandeep, we both wished for the same thing. That was wishing that the other person could get their wish. Oh, I see, said Sandeep. Wasn't he a clever little man? Yes, said Meena. He was full of values. He knew that we should value each other and want for each other as much as we want things for ourselves. That's how we share things in life. That's how we can form good relationships and get on with each other. It's caring and loving in practice. Said Sandeep. We've really learned a lesson today, haven't we? But thank you, little man. Thank you for giving us these wishes, and so that we can have the little red car and the blue machine. for the sowing to take place, and we can all live happily ever after. That's a lovely story. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed telling it. See you next time. Bye.